We're 33 episodes in.
Awesome.
Which has taken us, I think, 6 years. But anyway, we're back again. And as usual, I have Sean with me.
Hey, guys.
And first time on the podcast, and the first ever bow tie we have on the podcast is Lachy.
How's it looking?
Yeah, you look incredible.
If you're watching this on YouTube, well, I should say, if you're listening to this on the podcast app, you should watch this on YouTube because Lachy has made a very good effort by dressing up.
I can describe it for the listener.
Yeah, please go. Please do.
I have on a cream bow tie with a rough finish. What would you call this colour, Sean?
Don't ask me colours.
It's like a pool table green, or maybe a little darker than that. Jacket, two-piece suit, and a textured white shirt.
R.M. Williams?
And R.M. Williams.
Yeah, of course
That's
they are. Of course they are.
And a mandarin.
In gingy socks on? Toe socks?
I wish I had thought of that. In fact, I'm uncomfortable now that I remember that I'm not wearing them.
Well, mate, you look incredible. I will give you that.
Thank
you look
you.
incredible.
If we're doing awards for the podcast at the end of the year, you'll definitely get best dressed.
Yeah.
I'll have to show up.
You already showed up here. So you're sweet.
Yeah, this is his 4th attendance to the gym this year as well. And we're going to check him in on Zen Planner.
I mean, you are an athlete now, so is that why
that's
you're not
right.
at the gym anymore?
Well, I became an athlete about 2 weeks ago. Or when do you think I became an athlete, Sean?
I don't think you did. So you might want to...
Well, okay, well, that hurts me, but...
Why did you think you became an athlete?
That's a better question.
Well, I mean, aren't we here to talk about my massive achievement? Isn't
Yes,
it?
we are.
We are. Yeah. That's,
That is
I guess,
true.
a good segue.
Yeah.
No, it's funny. I think we were talking before, Sean, about what's the actual impressive thing? Is it the achievement? Is it the race? You've run 100Ks or whatever it is, or is it how much you committed to training and preparing for it? And for me, that was like we were talking before on that run the other day. It was sort of towards the race, so we were sort of reflecting on where we'd started from and about to do the race, and you said. I laughed because I said you were like, oh yeah, you're coming in pretty, you're a bit underdone, la la la.
So
and I said,
you're pretty much you're undercooked.
Undercooked,
You're
yeah.
undercooked.
So, and I said, it's funny because this is literally the most I've prepared for anything in my entire life. I felt so organised. I was like, I'd done 8 solid weeks of preparation, training, and I was fully committed to it. Every single day, on my program, I was either hitting it or like I couldn't because I was injured or like whatever. There was no day that I was like, I'm too tired or whatever. So I was feeling so good. I was like, yes. I've prepared so much.
And then Sean says otherwise.
But
I don't think I was wrong.
No, you absolutely weren't wrong. But we were talking about how it's like, like I was saying, throughout everything that I've done before, I've always kind of like gotten away with it. I've left it to the last minute and not done any preparation or whatever, and then I've shown up on the day and somehow I've kind of like
Just scraped your way through.
got through it, and then I laugh at it. It's kind of like it's part of my sort of character or whatever my performance. I say, how funny, how cool am I to show up on the day and just do it, But inside, I always knew it was like, but you didn't. You could have done so much better if you had have like showed up. And I think like for me, I trained as much as I could, having only heard about the race, like
10 weeks out.
10 weeks out. So then I went on holiday straight away, and then
I
started training. So I did as much training as I possibly could.
100%.
So that's the bit that I'm proud of for myself.
Yeah, and that's what we spoke about as well. It's like we all know that person that just, I've got a friend that did a marathon. He didn't even train for it. And like we were saying on the run, that we don't admire that at all. It's like that, you use that as like a frontage of like, oh, so you didn't commit to anything, you didn't follow through the training plan, because we did hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kilometers in training. It's more impressive to me when someone says, oh, I did my first marathon, I trained for 16 weeks, 4 times a week and ate perfect. And even if their time was terrible, it's like, well, you did all the hard work leading up to it. That's the admirable part, not the, oh, I just showed up and didn't train and did it. It's like, oh, cool. That's dumb. That's not admirable at all. The training is definitely where it's at.
Yeah. And you had that, like, I think just before the race, I had a feeling like, I was like, I already felt good. Like I'd already achieved almost. It was like the race was the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
And the final proof that you had sort of done.
You did the work.
You did the work.
Yeah.
And, that's really nice to have. And I think you were the same because you got sick like 2 weeks out.
Yeah.
And I think you were like, oh, shit, how's this going to go? How far, But you were saying the same sort of things. You're like, in your head, you're like, oh, well, at least I've done the training. Like,
And then that was one thing that got me through. Something that's really like stuck with me was I heard ultra runner talk about it. How he was saying a lot of people think when they're standing on the start line of a race, say it's a 100K race, when they're standing on the start line, they're like, I'm 0% to my goal, because my goal is to finish the 100 kilometers. And I'm standing on the start line at 0%. So at 50 kilometers, I'm 50% of the way to my goal. Yeah. And he was like, that's a terrible way to think about it. He was saying, you've just done 16 weeks of training. You've done 1,000 kilometers in training.
Or when you're 8.5 or
8 weeks.
16 each.
Yeah. And his point was when you're standing on the start line, you're 90% of the way to your goal. The last 100K race, is the last 10%. For Lachy, he still had 25% left, standing on the start line. But the longer you train for, that percentage becomes smaller and smaller. So, like, when you get to the 50% mark, the 50-kilometer mark, you're not 50% of the way to your goal. Yeah. You're 95% of the way there. And, like, that helped me a lot mentally go, I've done 95% of the work. All I have to do is run this last 50 and I've achieved my overall goal. Yeah. And it definitely helps to think like that, I think. Yeah. Rather than standing on the start line and like, I'm at 0% and I've got 100K to run. It's like, no, you've done all the work now. Now you just got to finish the last little 10% and you're done. You've done your goal.
Yeah, the journey starts at day one of training.
Yeah.
I guess that's what a lot of competitive athletes, top level competitive athletes are talking about because it's such a small percentage that's standing on the podium. But everything else, that's where the work's done.
Yeah. Well, that's where the enjoyment is.
Exactly.
Like we spoke about that a couple of times when we did our night runs. Sunday night, we go, all right, we've got to go test our head torches. So we'll catch up at 8 o'clock at night on a Sunday and we'll go for a run through the bush. And we're like, when would we ever do this? This is, this is ridiculous. We're just trudging along,
Or like what else would we be doing right now?
Sit on the couch, watch TV.
Watching telly,
Yeah, the end result is obviously, I think you said it perfectly before, the proof. Yeah. But the joy is in the training. That's the fun part. Yeah. That's definitely the fun part. Yeah. It's not all fun, but there's plenty of fun times in there. There's some miserable parts in training too.
Yeah. And it's kind of, I don't know, it's like I said, this is the most I've prepared for anything. So this is the most training I've ever done. And it's been a new experience for me, to go from sort of one state of being, which is, 4 gym sessions a year.
We just looked up his attendance. He's been to the gym.
Actually 4?
Yeah. No, this is 4. He's done 3.
You booked in on Sun Planet for the podcast.
I went from that to sort of suddenly doing. I mean, obviously, didn't ramp up. Got a bit sore and things as a result, but went from there to straight away going, what was it, like 2 days off a week, so 5 days a week training.
Yeah.
Which is huge for me. Like I don't like it, that's most people listening to this are going to be like, oh, yeah.
No, that's what I do.
Still a lot.
For me, it was a big jump, and so but the change in how you feel, you know, and it's a slow burn. It's sort of like you don't feel it. It's not like you start running and you're like, yes, I feel great because I'm running, you know. It's like it's kind of a gradual increase in happiness, I think. And I mean, that's kind of a simplistic word. It's more sort of it's more like it's deeper than that. It's less of a kind of a conscious happiness and more of like a deeper joy.
Yeah.
Like, do you reckon?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's very hard to articulate.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to tell people the feeling unless they've like done it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be running either. It could just be training 4 times a week, going from doing nothing.
For sure.
You know, like it's whatever it is. But it's very hard to articulate what that feeling is.
Yeah.
And you don't realize it's creeping up. And then when you get in a rhythm and you do that for a long period of time, and when you stop, you go, oh, it's like it's like I don't have that there anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
I know exactly what you mean.
And I suppose also working towards a goal is part of that as well. And, you know, being sort of focused and committed to and a bit scared, you know, I think that's a big part of it. Scared of the thing that you're trying to do. You know, that motivated me.
Well, that's what happened when I said to you should do the race. Because I said to Lachy, hey, there's actually, we got a lot to talk about here. Because I said to Lachy, oh, you should do UTA. There was a 22, a 50, and 100. And I can't remember exactly how you sent the message to me. But I was like, you should do the 50. And then he wrote me a message saying, thinking about doing the 50, you know, but the 100 really scares me. And I was like, yeah, you should do it. As in, do the 50, you know? And then he sends me a screenshot. He entered the 100. And I was like, oh, no.
That's awesome. That's so good.
I was like, don't do the 100. And then we were on the phone. He's like, I know I can do 50. He's like, but I don't know if I can do 100. And I was like, all right, well, that's the perfect goal then.
Yeah.
And then, because Lachy and I, we didn't know each other that well before this. And he had told me that he had done like 24-hour mountain bike racing, stuff like that. Had done hiking because he used to be an outdoor guide. Like these adventure races that he trained for that I knew he'd trained for. And then we started running together and we started talking about it. And it turned out he didn't do an adventure race. They all got cancelled and his partners pulled out. So, and like now when Lachy says he trained for something, I'm like, oh, he did 3 sessions. And I was like, oh, so he hasn't done an adventure race. And then we started talking about the 24-hour mountain biking. And he's like, oh, yeah, that was a team of 4.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you didn't do 24 hours. He's like, no, team of 4. Like, we slept, and then the other guy was right. I was like, oh, God, okay. And then the other one was the hiking, you know. It's like, which you are very good at hiking. But then he's like, oh, yeah, I can't run.
Expert hiker.
He's very good at hiking. He's like, oh, I can't run. And so I had this image in my head that he'd done all these long adventure race stuff, and people were like, oh, is Lachy doing the 100? I was like, yeah, but he's done heaps of like 24-hour mountain biking.
Yeah, you kept saying that.
Yeah.
I was like,
So I had built him up like, oh, yeah. And then the more I learned, I was like, man, he is...
That's awesome.
This is a long way out from what I thought.
Hey,
so,
I want to ask though, Lachy, with all that in mind, what was your decision process, or why did you decide to do it? I understand that, like you said, you were thinking about the 50, but even go further back than that, and it sounds like it was a little bit of a communication error to like sign up to the 100. But what was your motivation? Because you're jokingly saying that you never prepared for anything and all this stuff. Like, how did you decide to do the 100 UTA?
Yeah. I like Sean said, I've done so, like I've done not adventure races, but like endurance races. So 24-hour mountain bike is a team of 2. Thank you.
Oh, was it? Sorry.
I've done a bunch of them actually.
Okay.
And so like, but I love that. You know, I love that sort of. The gym has been new to me. Like when I first showed up at the gym, I wasn't a gym guy at all. Sean would probably say I'm still not a gym guy, but I feel like one. It's really different. Like in the gym, it's sort of like, you know, you hit it for half an hour and it's like power, you know, you go to the max and it feels great. Like I love it. But there's a different thing that you get in long range stuff that's you go to a different place and it's not that panic that I feel in the gym, you know, when you got 5 minutes to go or something and you just like 5 minutes seems like insurmountable amount of time. You don't have that kind of moment where you're like panicking. It's more of a it's a real slow burn, and you go through sort of waves of joy, of kind of misery. You go through this whole sort of journey, and it's almost in slow motion. And there's something about that I love, and I love the adventure aspect of it as well. Like I love the idea of sort of starting in one place and just going way out in the bush, or getting remote, or going somewhere that not many people have been before. If it's difficult to get to, that's even better. It's sort of, it makes it more special. And so that's where I've kind of come from. Like I've done my whole life, I've done outdoor stuff, like bushwalking and climbing and paddling and all that kind of stuff. My family's into it. I worked as an outdoor instructor. All that kind of stuff. I love that. So, and I think maybe, so I became a dad like 3 years ago. And I think that is a massive life change, and life kind of gets simpler in a lot of ways, and you don't have time to go out on a big journey or an adventure or something, and you don't have the ability to sort of prioritize yourself like that. It's not hard day to day. I don't find it hard day to day, but you do miss that sort of that bigger kind of stuff, and you kind of like that adventure side of things has really been a part of who I am, and I haven't done it for 3 years, and you start to sort of miss it, and you start to sort of go, you forget, and you're like, can I still do it if I wanted to? Like, have I still got the grit to sort of get through something like that? And like Sean said, I've been trying to do as a way of kind of addressing this, and also just out of interest, and something that I want to do. I've been trying to get into adventure races, but they're hard to do because you've got to find the one that I've been trying to do is called GeoQuest, and you've got to find 3 other teammates who can paddle, navigate, do endurance stuff. What's the other one? And ride a mountain bike.
Yeah.
And run for extended periods. So it's really difficult to find a crew of people who will commit that time, who have the skills, have the inclination, and then don't get injured. We'll show up on the day, So I sort of had there was a while there where I had a team of 3, and we were starting to prepare for this GeoQuest race. We were looking for a 4th, and then we were looking for 2 more because one of them pulled out. One got injured.
Started to dwindle more and more.
And then the other one got their exam calendar came out for uni. Suddenly, I was on my own looking for a team of 3. And so I'd done a bit of training or whatever, but it just never kind of came about. And so then there was a 100-kilometer paddling race down the Hawkesbury called the Hawkesbury Classic. So I was like, I'll do that. So I trained for that, and didn't train as much as I have for this, but I didn't have anyone to sort of do it with. So it was kind of I've learned a lot doing this running with Sean about how to train and so on, which I didn't know back then. So I was sort of training, and then that race got cancelled. So because of the floods, a week out,
No.
And so, I was bummed about that. And then, so I've been trying for quite some time.
Years, hey? Because I remember speaking to you this about a long time ago, yeah.
Yeah, just to get that, I like to prove to myself that I still have the grit to get through something like that. Go and have an adventure, just feel that again. And then, so I came into the gym one day, And Sean was like, "Oh, I ran past your house the other day." I was like, "Bullshit." No one runs past my house because I live in
Context.
on the dark side in West Pittwater, the boat access.
In a shanty town.
In a shanty. That's rubbish. Anyway, I said, "Prove it." And he showed me his Strava thing. I said, "You did." Ran past my house. So I said, "Call me up next time, and I'll come running with you." So I did, and so we went for a run around the bush tracks out the back of Lovett Bay, and it was fun. And we chatted, and it was a good time. And then Sean said that he was doing this UTA, so I was like, "Oh yeah, that could be cool," you know. And I thought, yeah, like, I'll do the half marathon or something like that. You know, I haven't got long to train or whatever. And I looked it up, and it was 300 and what was it? No, $180
to do
the 22.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like it's like $1 a kilometer. No, like $10 $10 a kilometer. I mean, it's like so that sort of didn't sound worthwhile. So I was like, yeah, maybe. And then I thought about it a bit more, and I was like, well, Sean's doing the 100, which is pretty cool. And you know, Sam Polnau's doing the 22. He was doing the 50 at that point, I think.
No, he was always doing the 22.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
And Neil Darns and Amy Polnau all doing the 22. So like it was kind of a momentum, you know. There was a bit of a crew. Everyone was training and stuff, and I was like, the hard part about starting these adventure races or endurance races or whatever is like bringing the energy for it, you know, and getting the ball rolling. Once you've got the ball rolling, it's easy to keep it going, you know. Everyone understands what you're doing, and you know, you say I'm going for a run, like everyone's like, yeah, of course you are, you know, like so I started to think, well, the momentum's there. I could just jump on this, you know, and it's not much time. Maybe I'd do the 50 Ks, you know, that'd make it financially sort of worthwhile. And then I was on the. Was it cheaper Ks on?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah,
value. What the dollar cost average was per kilometre on that one.
Little did I know that the entry fee is probably, what do you reckon, like 10% of the overall cost?
Yeah, we can talk about
that. So then I jumped on my computer and I was having a look at the different options, and I was like, oh yeah, the 50. And I looked at the map and I was like, oh yeah, it's all right. Like it sort of goes through Katoomba a bit and then down in the valley, and it's pretty cool and stuff like that. And then I looked at the 100, and the 100 just goes straight out in the bush. Like it starts at Katoomba and you're just like, okay, out you go. And you go up past Narrow Neck and like past Mount Solitary, like into the wilderness. And I was like, whew.
Fire you up a bit.
Yeah, fired me up. So, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, gee, like I want that, you know, like that tingle that went down my spine. I was like, I want that. And my partner Jesse's done 200s, so I couldn't really come home with just a 50 medal and expect to be celebrated, you know.
And also, surely the 100's even cheaper per K.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, not in reality, because you know,
more requirements.
But at the time, that's what I thought. So so I sent Sean a text, and I said, okay, I'm definitely in for the 50. I'm definitely in for the 50. And I was like, this time I was decided. Everyone was telling me it was stupid. You know, Jessie was like, you don't have time to do that, which she was absolutely right. I didn't, but she took the bullet on that one. Did a lot of parenting that I didn't, that I didn't show up for, and you know, like my parents were like, oh, my dad was like, that's stupid. That's like you just injure yourself. You know, you just hurt yourself doing that kind of thing.
He was right as well.
And yeah, he was right. Yeah, he's absolutely right. And so in the back of my head, I was kind of like, is this a stupid thing to do? And you know, probably it was touch and go. It was touch and go whether it was a borderline, whether it was stupid. I just didn't have enough time, or whether like, you know, just get it, you know.
Sounds like the best type of challenge.
Exactly. And in the end, I thought to myself, I was like, if I had to, I could get up and run 50 Ks right now. It'd hurt. I'd be doing it slowly. I'd be injured afterwards probably, but I know I could do it. But I knew I couldn't do 100. Like I was like, if I got up and ran 100, I would get injured and not be able to continue before I got to the end of that 100 Ks. So that was like, I have to do that training. I have to show up and you know, it was scary. Like I was like, I didn't know whether whether the result was going to be, you know, success and I'd feel great because, you know, I'd achieved something, or whether I'd discover that actually I just tried to like, you know, tried to sort of as a knee-jerk reaction just go for something too hard and not get there. So it was kind of borderline, which as you say, I think was the perfect challenge. So I said to Sean, like, yeah, I'm in for the 50, and this was kind of like the final test. I was like, I just wanted to see if Sean, and I said, I'm in for the 50, but the 100 makes me tingle. I think that's all I said.
And I said, do it.
And he said, do it. No, yeah, you said, I said, am I crazy? And you said, you think it's awesome. Obviously meaning the 50, but I was like, I sent that. I was like, Sean will tell me if he's like, no, like you 100% will just hurt yourself, you know, which he probably would have said.
Yeah, I would have.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I knew what we were both talking about.
So I'm really glad that
I didn't.
You misunderstood me.
Worked out well.
Yeah. And I think in the end though, like you're the only person that knows whether you have it in you or not is yourself. And you've got to that's I'm really happy that I kind of just decided to do it and got it done, obviously.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things that happened the entire time was Lachys' first training run from when he decided to do the 100, and we had like said, all right, download this app Strava so we can see your runs and like we can all share our stuff. And he goes out on his first run, which I think was 8 kilometers. And it comes up on Strava, and in the description, it says, right hip sore, left ankle swollen, right toe sore, left calf cramp. And I'm like, I can't even remember it, but there was multiple things. And I saw it, and I was crying with laughter. So I screenshotted it and said to Locke, like, dude, are you okay? And he goes, oh, fuck, I didn't know that was public.
I thought because it said in Strava, because I've never really used Strava before. So it said in Strava, like, comments under your thing, and I was like, oh, this is where you write your notes, you know, so that you can track your, you know, what and see, this thing's always been giving me a niggle or whatever. So I wrote a full sort of medical summary.
And all internal thoughts, you know, things that didn't want to go out to the world. So I screenshotted it, sent it to everyone. I'm like, look at Lockie, he's doing 100 in 8 weeks. And me and Dunsey, we were like, so every run he went on after that on Strava, it was like, dude, what is the ligament update? You know, like
you didn't tell him.
Oh, it was the best. It was so funny. But I wish you kept that up the entire time, that internal dialogue to put it down. It was like getting a look into someone's journal, you know, and they didn't know you were reading it. It was so funny. The list of injuries it was like he was in a car accident, you know, not an 8-kilometer run.
Oh, man. It was. So that was one of my first runs. And I didn't know anything yet. Like I seriously, like this is an indication of what I would have done had I gone into this without, you know, Sean's guidance. Yeah. Like I went in there and I hadn't eaten that day because I'd just spent a week on holiday in Heron Island eating at a buffet. So I just like, I felt like yuck, you know, like just like I'd overeaten stuff. So on the flight back and stuff, I was like, I'm just going to fast today and kind of reset, you know. And I was like, oh, it's a Monday though, so I've got to get my first training run in. So I went out at night. I'd been traveling all day, hadn't eaten. It was nighttime. I went out and I just felt rubbish. Like I'd sat on a plane all day and then I'd run and it was just like, felt horrible. And obviously, like one of the biggest things I learned during the training was just how much you have to eat, you know,
Yeah.
and how much difference it makes when you haven't eaten all day, or even like, you know, even you have a big meal and then you go for a 2-hour run, you're cooked before you finish that 2-hour run. You like, and that's kind of like, they talk about hitting the wall, and I think like that's not eating.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
and all you need to do is eat sugar. That's pretty much it. Like, which
We went on the first long run that we did together, which I think was like 3 hours at the time. And Lachys showed up with a camelback of water. And I was like, oh, this is not going to be good. So we started running and he's like just chirping like for the first hour.
Just talking.
And I'm like, and then all of a sudden it just like, Lock, you know, like just
quiet.
silent, you know. Like this. I'm like, oh, hey, look, do you want a drink, you know? And I had like extras in my pack and stuff. So we stopped at a servo and bought him a bottle of water. What were you drinking before that? I can't remember.
water.
It was just water.
Yeah.
No
So I
tailwind
filled
there.
him up with some tailwind, which is like liquid carbohydrates. And he just, go. I remember he just sculled it. And I was like, oh, that's not going to be good either. So we're at like South Narrabeen. We get up to North Narrabeen. He's like, bro, I need a toilet. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I'm about to shit myself. And I was like, I know, Lachy. You just sculled at like, you know, 80 grams of carbohydrates before.
Had you had liquid carbs before?
No, absolutely
No,
not.
no.
Ever?
So anyway, we're doing 4-minute 40Ks to find a toilet, and off he goes into North Narrabeen toilet. He comes out, big smile on his face. He's like, I feel better now. And then we start running again. You know, again, just silent. Like, hey, what's your heart rate like? And he's got his watch, you know, and he's like, 185.
Like walking up a hill.
No. It was a drama-filled run.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was.
Yeah, there was a lot to sort out.
But then it was like, to your testament, I know that I'm like taking the piss, but like then it was, I think, a couple realization moments where it's like, okay, I need to address this, you know, like, and then it was he started researching gels and tailwind. And like,
Well, I didn't do much research. Sean did all that for me.
Well, yeah, I was like, but like you took it all on board,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, like
It sounded though like that, like those experiences. At least what it did for you is like, okay, I have to prepare. I can't just, you know, go in with the old mindset.
He was so positive the whole time. Like I was thinking, like, oh no, you know,
He sounds very different to you.
yeah. We're complete opposite ends of the
different, yeah.
spectrum. Well, you think we're similar?
Well, see, yeah, I like
With the preparation part, I mean.
This is
Yeah, the preparation.
Oh, yeah,
That's what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
well, I mean the
'Cause Sean's,
preparation side of
you
it. Like
know, preparing like no one else before.
yeah. And then to watch Lachy do this, you know, it was like, oh fuck, he's in trouble, you know. But then he got stronger and stronger and stronger. Like the first couple of weeks, there was a lot of steep learning curves. I think
It's very steep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said to you, like I was saying, like if I'd gone into this with old Lachy mindset, like thinking what I would have gone, okay, a gel an hour, and I'm sweet, you know. And I would have thought like
Just an hour and a little bit of water.
Yeah.
exactly. I would have had water in the camelback and
Wow.
gel an hour, and I would have thought that I was all over it. Like I would have thought that I was so good.
And to put that into perspective, the people that haven't done this, that is, you know, so far away from what you actually need to fuel. You know, like that would be a fifth of what you actually
that would
need.
have been incredibly impressive though if you did it like that.
It just would have been incredibly painful.
Yeah.
Horrible, yeah.
Probably
Because
get injured.
the thing is, I would have finished. Like I would have finished. I would have just had to walk, you know, and I would have been one of those poor people
Holding.
coming in at
22
10 o'clock
hours.
and,
Yeah.
you know, the next day,
Yeah.
at 27 hours. Yeah,
You dodged a bullet there.
I did. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Well,
And then-
Sean pulled me out of the way of the bullet.
And then the gear was another thing. So like,
Yeah.
Lachy's got you might have to explain to everyone what the categories are of like camping gear. You know, like he's got 3 categories in his head that he kept talking to me about. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, but this isn't camping. And he's like, yeah, but then you've got, and I was like, yeah, but we're running. You know, like this
it's
is,
different, mate.
What were the categories?
yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
This is for outdoor gear in general.
You've got like the premium camping stuff, like you get from like Paddy Palin and those shops, MacPack and Mountain Designs, that kind of thing. And they tend to be lightweight. They're really good quality, bloody expensive, and they're for putting in your backpack and taking out for multi-day, bushwalks and stuff like that. And then that's what I've got. I've got all that kind of gear. And then you've got so I kind of look down on all these other people with these other brands. And then you've got like BCF and stuff, which is like cheap and cheerful, car camping. It's usually heavy. It's usually shit. It's usually like for putting in the cupboard and getting out once a year, if that, And then you've got, and then there's like this kind of sub industry, which is like the hunting industry, and it's got, like it's always got like extra chunky bits, and it's usually heavy, and it looks really durable, but it's usually shit.
So
you've thought about this a lot,
dude.
None of those were very related to the run.
We're running, and he's talking about. He's like, and then this category, it's always got spikes on it, and I'm like, dude, I'm talking about a running hat. Yeah. I'm like, just buy a fucking running hat. It doesn't matter.
we were talking about this because Sean was like, this is the torch that I've got. And I
like
Googled
a head torch.
And the website, and I ended up buying one of these.
You have to have one for the run, right?
Well, see,
had one.
my awesome like lightweight camping one didn't have the battery life. So I was like, okay, well, I can borrow this battery from this person because they're specific, batteries for this torch. So I was like, I can borrow this one. This person's got one of those torches, so I'll borrow theirs. Borrow this one. So in the end, I would have had to borrow my entire support crew's batch torches. My partner's torch, both of my battery plus my spare battery, and these batteries are like $50 each, just to get like maybe through the run. And Sean's torch just lasts the whole run in one battery. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get that one. but the website, I poo-pooed it initially because I looked at the website. There was a rifle and like
he's like, hey dude, hunting
deer antlers
category
and stuff. I was like, yeah, I love that stuff, but it's not good gear.
He's like, you're in the wrong category. Yeah. That's a hunter's torch. Yeah. And I'm like, no, Lachy, we're running. And then we went for a night run, and he saw my head torch and his head torch, and he's like, what's that brand again? And I was like, it's a Phoenix. He's like, oh yeah. And then, a week later, he sends me this screenshot. Hey, dude, I just bought that head torch.
I hate my words. I ended up literally with every single piece of gear that Sean had. Same shoes, same backpack, same poles, same torch.
You're running your long sleeve.
You have the same colour outfit as well.
I thought about that as I was running. I was like, what a missed opportunity. Wouldn't it have been so funny if I just bought literally the same colours? Same colours. It would have been so off it.
We were going out on these runs, and I don't mean to keep teasing you like that. He wore this fluorescent yellow long sleeve. It looked like he was
for a kayaking shirt, so I don't get run over.
But he looked like a lollipop man, It was high vis, and it's fucking glowing every time my head torch would go on him, and he would light up, and oh god. And I was like, Lachy, man, you can't run in that. It looks like it weighs 3 kilos, that shirt as well. It was a dense.
It was pretty heavy. Yeah.
Lachy, you have to buy a shirt, buy a long sleeve shirt, which he did. But man, we had some fun leading up to that.
With the preparation though, Lachy, because it sounded like you did pretty well in the end of it. Were there still things during the run that you felt like, I'm not quite prepared for what I'm about to tackle?
So I suppose the only thing during the run that I was like, that was preparation. Like that was, if I had have prepared for longer, this wouldn't have happened. Or and basically what happened was I was doing the run like really well. I was at best. So I had in my head, if I finished in 16 hours, I would be deliriously happy, like beyond my wildest dreams, stupid. if I really wanted to finish under 20 hours because you get the bronze buckle, you know, obviously a bit of bling, wanted that. So, so anywhere between there, I would be happy with, you know, and obviously the closer to 16, the happier I would be. I started the race on that 16 mark, like I was going for it, you know, and that's what I was aiming for, you know. I was trying to get it, and I did most of it. You know, most of the race was pretty well on target. Maybe I would have been slipping back to 17. Got to, and you know, obviously I wasn't there because everybody gets to 80 Ks and, you know, slows down a lot. So I wasn't, like, I say that I was, it's not like I almost got 16 hours, you know. But I know what it would have been like had I had those extra Ks under my belt in the preparation. So if I got to it was 77 Ks.
77 was like when the
final supported checkpoint. And so you get there, and basically after that, it's the next half of the half of the remainder is downhill, and then the next half is back up again. So
it's essentially like, just a big V.
Yeah.
So from 77, you just go straight downhill for 8 kilometers. You know, you're down back at the bottom, and then you've got a really big climb out for the last 10. So,
and it's hard downhill. It's like fire road, steep, no stairs or anything like that. So you're braking the whole time with your quads, and you know it's really taxing on your legs.
And you've already got 77K in your leg. You know, your legs are cooked.
So that's when my legs clapped out, and it was like I was positive. I was there, like I was still driving for the, you know, to get there. I was still trying. In my head, I was still maybe had a chance at getting 16, 17 hours. But my legs just clapped out. So it was like, I think it's called your MCL on the side, both knees. On the inside, it just like had this pain there, and they just wouldn't work. Like I'd take this, you know how you kind of, as you're running down, you're obviously on one leg for a second, and then you bend your leg and control your descent to put the next foot down. My leg wouldn't do that. So I couldn't do that running. So I had to walk. So I basically walked that whole downhill, and then it was fine going uphill. So I powered on the uphill. But there were constantly these little downhills.
It was really undulating down the bottom.
So every time there was a little downhill, it was like I'd have to stop again and hobble. And then by the end, it was like a single step would slow me down for 5 seconds. You know, I'd have to stop, and I'd have to like ease myself down. And that's it. Had I trained, that was training. So if I'd done,
well, not necessarily training. It was time.
Yeah.
You know, it's time. So for 9 weeks, I think you prepared exactly for 77K.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Right.
In 9 weeks, you're capable of running 77. If you had 16 weeks, you would have run that pace for the 100.
Exactly.
You know, it was you're training for your time slot that you allocated. Was evident to running 77.
Yeah.
So I think it was just a time thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you guys know how many Ks you both did in preparation of running?
We
did.
You did exactly half.
Yeah, I did exactly half of what Sean
I think
did.
I did. I just did under 1,000. I did 1,000 kilometers running in 16 weeks.
I did more than half your elevation though.
Yeah. Did you?
I did.
Okay. Nice. Well done.
I thought.
So yeah, I did 1,000 kilometers in 16 weeks, and I think Lachy did 500 in 9 weeks.
Okay.
Does that sound about right? Because remember, we did look at that just before the race.
What did you do? 1,000.
1,000. I was just under 1,000K in 16 weeks.
Yeah, so I was.
I think you were 500 in 9 weeks.
I was pretty much down on half.
Yeah.
And I have to ask as well, what was the finish time for both of you?
I did 15 hours, 40 minutes.
Yeah, I did 18 hours, 23.
So well on.
Which in the end, I was stoked with. Like that
I think we both, I've never run a track like that. That was something that we didn't understand.
Talk about that, Sean, because Sean told me, we were running that nighttime run that we were talking about. Sean was like, this was the first trail that I ever ran. I was like, but didn't you grow up in Parramatta? And he was like, yeah, like 3 weeks ago. I was like, what?
Yes, I'd never run bush trails. Like I'd run like compact, hard fire trails, you know, but nothing like the UTA course. Nothing like that, or nothing like where Lachie lives. That was the first time I'd ever run anything like that. So technical. It's really hard. It's like, I think it helps when people see photos of the race. Because they think it's like 100K, and it's like, oh, like you're on all fours and you have ladders and ropes that you had and stuff like that. The terrain was incredibly technical, way more technical than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a lot more fire trail and like narrow neck running.
What about that part coming down from Iron Pot?
There's so many parts of these, because we've got friends, obviously Penny, she had done the 50 before at UTA, and we spoke to a bunch of people that did it, and they tell you about these like certain spots of the race. They're like Ferber steps. Everyone talks about Ferber steps. The last kilometre of the race, it's 900 stairs. Everyone says it's the hardest thing in the world. It's not.
It's not. No.
It's definitely not. No. And then there's another one.
You're smiling up that because you're nearly done and you're like, sweet.
But then there's all these parts in the race that no one tells you about that are super hard, you know, and it's a bit daunting because you're doing this really hard part of the race that no one's spoken about, and you don't see any of it written on Facebook or, you know, on YouTube videos. No one talks about it. And you're in it and you're like, my God, if this is what this feels like, I can't imagine what it's like when you get to the stuff that everyone talks about. And this was one of them. Iron Pot, there was this like out and back that you did, and then you have to come down this descent. And this descent wasn't like super long, but both of us on the elevation chart thought it was a set of stairs. And it wasn't a set of stairs. It was so steep, so slippery, super technical, and it was relentless. Like you just had to, you're essentially fighting yourself from falling from top to bottom. How long do you reckon that was? It felt like forever.
It felt like a long time. I reckon we were doing it for half an hour, if not more.
And it's like constant, like it's so steep. It's really hard. And it's funny because everyone that films when they run, they never film these spots because you have to concentrate so much. You can't film.
You've got your hand sort of up behind you.
Holding on,
Yeah, it's
real
steep.
You see all these videos and everyone's like got their camera out and they're like...
It's a black diamond.
You're like this, yeah. And then you're doing the race. You're like, no one films this part. And then you realise why. Like it's impossible to film it. Yeah. And it's on private land, that part as well. So you can't actually go train that. This guy opens it up for the race. So you can't even go train on that part. That was incredibly hard, that
was
part.
Hard, yeah.
That was really hard.
And I think like you're still pretty fresh at that point.
I think we're about 40K in. It was from 40 to 47, somewhere around there.
Something, yeah. So you're still pretty fresh comparatively. And but I think that takes a huge chunk out of your capacity for the rest of the race.
Yeah.
That was...
Just zaps you.
Yeah. Probably mentally as well by the sounds of it, hey? Like, because you're focusing so much maybe, or I don't know.
Yeah, it is. It's exhausting because you're like concentrating just not falling. The best thing about that whole part was after that. So we got a support crew. So Locky's parents came out and Tash and my parents were my support crew. And the first time we got to see him was at 47K. So it was after this super like hard climb. But then you get to see your support crew for the first time, which is the best part of the entire race. Yeah. Every time you see your support crew, it's the highlight. You know, you're running support crew to support crew, really.
Yeah.
People that don't do it with crew, I reckon it is, I don't think it's any harder, but I reckon it's 40% less enjoyable. Because seeing your family and your wife and, you know, for Lachy, his kids were there as well at one of the checkpoints. Did they go to multiple? I saw them once.
Yeah, Jesse and the boys came to...
Fairmont
and
okay,
something like that.
So we got to see him 4 times.
One of my best mates was there too.
Oh, really?
I had a turnout. Yeah.
Oh, wow! And that's the best part. But then these checkpoints, they're everything that you want as an escape from what you're dealing with. Really, if you're in a bit of pain, so you walk in. There's a comfortable chair. It's your family, your friends, your wife. You know, there's food there. There's drink. There's music playing. Everyone's cheering, and you walk in and you're like, it's like I could just stay here, you know. This is what. So like for me, because I didn't want to be there. I was actually like not rude, but I was very short with my crew because I was just like, I don't want to get stuck here. If I sit down, I'm going to spend 15 minutes here easily because it's so nice here. Get me out, you know. Like just give me my things. I need to go. I don't want to see you, but I really want to see you again. You know, it was quite hard to fight that.
Jesse was saying that Sean's pit crew was like Formula One speed. like he'd get in, and like they've just ripped the bag off him, like bladders are out, like, you know, someone's filling this flask over here, someone's putting in the tailwind powder, and like, you know, and then he's off again. I think he did like half an hour less.
I did, yeah. At all
checkpoints.
so at the checkpoints, they time you when you cross the first part, and they time you when you leave. So at the end of the race, you can see how much they call it rest time, but how much time you spend in checkpoints. Some people spend hours in there.
It must be
Hours
so
in
hard
there.
to restart if you spend that long in a
100%. Like you don't want to sit down is the right thing to do. Like don't sit down unless you got to change your socks or like blisters or something like that, because it's just so comfortable there. But I think I ended up spending maybe 20 minutes at the stations, 20 something minutes.
Look, I was pretty quick. Like you were lightning.
I didn't want to spend.
You did not spend time there.
I didn't want to spend any time in there.
Yeah.
I wanted to be in there, in and out. Yeah.
I came in and I left as soon as my gear was ready. I left.
Yeah.
I didn't hang around, but like you were like, that's unbelievable.
I mean, Tash probably has had some practice being your pit crew, hasn't she?
We did it at home. You know, I was like, hey, this is like we did run throughs at home because I was like, I don't want to get there. I felt so sorry for Tash. She was like, your crew all feels really responsible for you. They just want to help you so much. You know, they feel really responsible and they want to be there. And so I said to Tash, like, we had gone through all this, like, Tash, this is what I want you to do. Just put a little bucket there so I can throw all my rubbish in it. Just hand me my stuff, you know, and then I'll be gone. And then I got to the first station at 47. I said, Tash, can you give me my spare hat? And she just looks up at me and her eyes are like, what? She's like, I haven't got it, you know? And I immediately moved on. I didn't care, you know, one bit. But she thought she had completely failed the mission, you know?
The first request.
The first thing I said to her, I didn't say hi. I said, Tash, can I have my spare hat? Because my hat was rubbing on my ear and it was annoying me. Like, can I have my spare hat? I haven't got it, you know? And I was okay, whatever, you know? Yeah. And then all day, the next pit crew, like the next support crew, she saw me. She's like, I've got your hat. You know, I was like,
4 different hats.
Yeah.
Just
I was like, oh, cool, thanks. You know? And then at the end of it, we sort of we were talking about it at the end, we were debriefing on how her day went versus my day. And I was like, oh, yeah, I didn't even
But I guess your
that.
facial expressions is probably very, like, you know, maybe she reads into it differently.
100%. My face, I'm not giving her much, you know, like I'm sort of blankly staring through
she's like,
people.
oh, you're pissed off.
And
like,
she thinks that you're like, I can't believe she did that.
You know,
staring into the distance.
All you had to do was bring my hat.
I asked for one thing.
So, but like Tash and my parents, they were incredible. It was so good. Yeah. And it was actually, I didn't know that Lachy's family were going to be there. So I ran into one of the checkpoints, Fairmont, and I was running and I just heard this like, go Sean, like a voice I didn't recognize. And I turned and Jesse was standing there holding Tully. And I was like got a bit emotional in the back of my head because I was like, Lachy doesn't know you're coming, you know, like when he comes in, he's going to lose his mind, you know? And then after the race, I was like, did you know your family were coming? He's like, yeah, I knew. I was like, oh, damn it. I was like, super emotional.
At least you got the surprise.
Yeah, I was pumped. I was like, that's so cool. She surprised him with the kids, you know?
Yeah.
And then Locke was real like nonchalant about it when I asked him
it was good. Because I wasn't sure whether they were going to come or not.
Oh, so you weren't 100% certain?
It wasn't 100% certain.
Oh, right, okay.
So, I was pretty stoked to see them. How emotional is it? Like,
I think like the emotions that you go through, highs and lows, is just like a chemical imbalance of your body just trying to deal with everything, you know, like you're exhausted. So you just have these massive floods of emotion. You're just running along and you might just start crying. You know, you think about someone and you might just start crying. We'd talked about it as well. And then like, thankfully, I don't think either of us had this, but you can have the total opposite effect as well, where you're just like, fuck this, you know, like just everything, you just hate it all of a sudden. And, you know, a couple kilometers later, you're euphoric again and super happy. But I had a couple moments where it just this big flood of emotion of like, you know, you're proud of yourself, and then you think about your parents at the next checkpoint, and you're like, just keep running, you know.
Yeah, it's full on. Like, there was a couple of times that like that first checkpoint was a big deal because it was 47 k's into the race, so you're not halfway time wise, but I didn't know that till later.
You thought you were halfway.
I was like, halfway.
I'm going to finish in 10 hours.
And yeah, I thought I thought I was a bit further away, and I was in a bit of a down phase, you know, or just finding it hard. And then I came around the corner, and there was the first what do you call them?
Checkpoint.
No, not checkpoint. The volunteers.
The first volunteers
saying go that way. You know, you're only a K to go, and it was the first person I'd seen. You know, first volunteer in ages, and you know they were just like, you know, just a little bit of sort of, I can't remember what they said. It was just like a tiny word of encouragement or something like that, and you're only a K to go. You're doing well, keep going or something. And I was just like, it's full on.
Yeah, that's awesome though. I guess that's
gets
just
going.
a little bit of human support, because you're probably in your own head for so long before that.
Yeah.
And then when you get a little bit of connection with someone, I guess.
It's like it's not a conscious thought. You know, I wasn't sort of mentally.
Yeah,
but like it's in your body. All these emotions are just coming out of your body, you know, and they're sort of just feeding them to you, and like your mind's kind of just observing this, kind of a bit nonplussed, you know, or a bit sort of bemused, like what the hell's going on here? Like, I felt like I was just observing all of these different things that were sort of coming up.
Yeah,
you know? There was one part though. I think it was just when the sun went down for me, so. It was after checkpoint 3. So we'd come back up into Katoomba. The sun was about to go down. It just rained, you know. So it rained. It was bloody cold. The sun had just about gone down. Went into the checkpoint. Came out, was chilly and stiff, you know. I had my raincoat on. I had and I was like running like Tin Man, just like, you know, I was like, I'll warm up. Still positive in my head and stuff like that, but I was like, I was stiff and cold, and you know, it was hard. And then the sun went down, pulled the torch out, started running, warmed up a bit, put the raincoat away and whatever, and I just got this like blast of like euphoria, like, and it lasted about an hour, like 50 minutes, something like that.
Damn,
and I was good. Just like, it was unreal. It was like
you were saying, he wanted to go hug all the volunteers. He said he almost stopped and hugged the volunteers.
People probably do.
They probably do.
They definitely do. They definitely do.
Yeah.
Like
the volunteers are angels.
They are, and they love it too. Like,
yeah,
they're feeding off it.
Yeah.
Like I was just like running through my head like all this like gratitude, and I was like, I just want to say thanks to this person, tell this person how much I love them, and like all this, and I just like, you know, run along, and then probably fortuitously about, you know, 20 minutes before I hit the checkpoint, that all disappeared. And I went to the checkpoint. I was like, "G'day, guys."
Like it cracked me. I was telling me one story when he was really emotional. He's like, "Man, when I cross that finish line," you can finish the story, but you know how when you said, "When I cross that finish line, I'm just going to be a mess. I'm just going to be like so emotional when I finally get there." And then what happened when you got there?
I was completely done by then. So I was just like just complete dial tone.
Because I was going to ask if the emotions were biggest at the end, but are you just too fatigued?
That's what I was expecting, but I think I'd purged all of that shit, and I had no time for that anymore. So I crossed the line. I was like, got my cold nachos, and hi everyone. Thanks for the support. Cheers. See ya. I'm going to bed.
The whole time you're running, though, it feels like the finish line feels we're going to be high, but
which is, I mean, I feel a bit bad for, you know, shout out to mum and dad and Jesse and Lindsay, my mate, and, you know, Tully and Quinn.
Sounds like we'll have 4 more listeners.
Yeah, that's right.
So we'll be at 8.
So like 1,000,008?
Yeah.
But yeah, like I don't think I gave them as much as they deserved, you know.
I don't think you ever feel like you do.
Yeah.
But also, like, I've crewed people before, and you never expect, like, you get so much out of it as the crew, and you realize what they're going through. It's not as if you're like, oh, well, they didn't even say thanks. You know, like he didn't even hug me. You know, like you just don't have that. But as the person who's being crewed, you're just so grateful for everything that they did, but you got no time for them.
Yeah.
You know, you can't thank them enough. But you also don't really want to speak to them. You're just like they're
and you're so busy. Like they're busy, they're doing everything, you know, and whatever. And then by the end, you just toast. Like I was. You weren't.
I was okay at the end. I was okay at the end.
People was walking the next day and everything.
Were you not looking?
I was absolutely not. No. No. I seriously had to think carefully about how I was going to make it down the gradual slope from where I was staying to the car and the finish line and stuff.
How many meters was that?
It was a good 50 meters, but it was the downhill that was the killer.
Did you consider walking it backwards?
Somebody suggested that, but I was like, I'm gonna fall over. There's no way.
It's awesome seeing the next day in town through Lura, just the way people are getting around town, just completely peg-legged, 2 stiff legs, walking. You see people holding onto the handrails, trying to get a coffee. Like it's very fun to watch.
Yeah.
Very,
It's about 5 degrees, and I saw this bloke getting around in thongs just because his shoes didn't fit. And every single one of his toenails was black.
Oh no!
Even his little toe. Black. Oh, no. I was like, "Fuck! Do you get black toes?"
Yeah, I've got. Yeah, look at this. I know the followers can't see it. Look at that one.
Oh, it's your little toe.
Yeah, black, completely
Is it
black.
gonna come off?
Yeah, I lost 3.
Oh, okay,
3 of my toenails. But
on that race.
From that, yeah.
Ah.
But that's not uncommon for me. Mine come off. I don't know why.
They just.
Yeah.
If they go black, they probably come off.
Yeah.
Yeah, for most people. Did you get no black?
I didn't feel like I was gonna get black toenails. I did actually get my second toe. Now went black-ish, dark brown. But I didn't feel it at the time.
And it didn't fall off?
No, it hasn't fallen off.
Hasn't yet.
But it's not black. It's just
okay.
Yeah, I was just surprised to see it. I didn't get blisters either. You got?
Yeah, I got 2 really bad blisters. Really bad. That's
zero blisters on 100 Ks. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is where a bit of experience from the old dog. Bit of old Bushy's trick. Don't get your bloody feet wet.
Yeah. So we had heaps of this is funny. We only spoke about this the other day. Heaps of creek crossings. Heaps. How many? Well, you didn't seem to remember any of them because your feet didn't get wet.
They were just kind of muddy bits.
No, the creek crossing when you came down.
Oh.
You come down out of and then towards the end. Well, there's 2 or 3 at the very end.
Yeah.
And
which
then
they
earlier
kindly
on,
put Besser blocks across.
They put what would happen is like a concrete crossing, and then the water was maybe ankle deep, and then they just put Besser blocks so you could step up on the Besser blocks. But they were they're not super stable. And I was looking at them, I'm like, fuck, I don't want to go over that, fall off a Besser block, So I just ran through every bit of water, and but whereas at the end he's like, oh, I cross. He's like, what river crossings and creek crossing? I was like, what do you mean? We crossed
But
6 creeks.
That was at 90 Ks. Mate.
I know, but earlier on we had those creeks that we had to cross as well.
No.
Yes, we did.
I mean, they must have been there because you got your feet wet. I reckon you had in your head, because we did those creek crossings in the training. So I reckon you had in your head, your feet are going to get wet anyway. Just
get over them.
Just get over it and do it, which is probably a good attitude. But I was like, I want to delay this. I don't want to get my feet wet this early.
Yeah.
So I was kind of mincing around.
That's actually not bad. 2 blisters if your feet get wet. That's pretty darn good.
Yeah, that was definitely the worst thing on my entire body.
Shout out to finger socks.
Yeah, in Gingy, they're individual toe.
Is that better
socks.
for you?
Well, there's no friction points between any of your toes because they got fabric between every there's little So
we had the same socks.
You bought the same socks and same.
I'm guessing Sean bought them first.
Oh yeah. Sean was kitted up fully before I met him. And yeah.
What was the appetite like the day after, or even what time of day did you finish?
I finished at 11
p.m.
p.m.
Did you? Yeah, okay.
And I think you were...
Well, I must have
well,
finished at 1 something like
1:30.
around then.
Yeah.
Did you eat straight away, or did you just go to?
Oh,
bed
I
as quick as
wanted
possible?
to, but like bit of feedback for the old UTA.
There we
food
go.
trucks, please. Like at the finish line, I had this is how organised I was, how much preparation I'd done. I wrote out a full list, of instructions at each checkpoint, whatever. I bagged up my food that I needed in labelled, drops and things like that. And in the final one, I was like, I'd written like chicken burger, chippies, like, all this stuff that I was going to have, at the finish line. And I chucked in this sachet of recovery mix, which I don't really know what it is, but it's probably got protein in it.
I would assume it does.
Stuff like that. And so I chucked that in. I was like, I'll have that, and then I'll have a chicken burger or something like that. And we got to the finish line, and there's nothing. Like, there's no food trucks. There's no coffee there's lots of supporters and stuff there waiting up for people to come through. I think maybe something went wrong with the trucks, or anyway, didn't eat.
There was food trucks when I finished.
Oh, was there?
They packed up.
That's just me. That's just me.
I didn't want to say anything. But yeah,
That's probably more important for the people that finish later than the people that finish early.
Exactly. Well, and for the poor old support crew sitting there, like, it was
there for
drizzling. It's freezing cold.
when he finished, he goes, "Hey, dude, did you get those nachos when you were finished?" And I was like, "What?" And he goes, "They gave you those plated nachos when you finished." I was like, "Dude, I didn't get nachos when you finished."
I got a plate of it said hot nachos, and it was hot for it was hot in their hand, and then by the time they passed it to me, it was cold, and it was bloody lucky it was there, because that was the only thing I ate. Plus this sachet, which I think probably saved my bacon, just got me through to breakfast the next day.
I got lucky. Tash went for dinner after she saw us at the last checkpoint and got me like a takeaway dinner. So she gave me this
you had a
big
proper
mezzi
meal.
plate, just all meat. And then as soon as I finished, she's like, "Hey, we got this as like a takeaway thing." And you should have.
Just like off
I
your
was like, it was disgusting the way I was eating. It was just like handfuls, just
I mean,
shoving
you're
it
a
in my
pretty
mouth.
quick eater at the best of times. Was that the quickest you've ever ate?
Probably, yeah. Yeah, it was quick. I got it down. It was delicious, especially because all that we had all day is just synthetic food.
Yeah.
Like the easiest thing to break down. So like our goal for us to eating throughout the day was to eat 80 grams of carbohydrates an hour, every hour. And that sounds, it sounds moderate but in practice, running, trying to get 80 grams of carbohydrates every hour for 16, 17, 18 hours, it's a lot. And it's just so much synthetic food. So I got a bit of a funny story. I had, you got 2 flasks on the front of your pack, and we were having this tailwind, and I'd used it all training. But after the day, I was just sick of it, it's really synthetic, and it was just like my mouth was gross, and I just didn't want it anymore. So on the very last checkpoint, I said to Tash, "Can you fill one up with Tailwind?" And we had Coke, like Coca-Cola, that was flat, so it had no bubbles in it. So when you run, it doesn't, squirt out the top. And I said, "Fill my other one up with Coca-Cola and one up with Tailwind," because I didn't want to deal with the Tailwind anymore. Running along, started drinking the Coke, and I was like, "This is delicious. This
It
is
was the best, yeah.
the best thing I've ever tasted." And I just sculled it with a big smile on my face. You made me feel so happy. And I finished the whole flask. I was like, fuck, I got the Tailwind left. And then I grabbed it and I drank some of the Tailwind, and it was the Coke.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
you're kidding.
So it went 90 kilometers in at this moment. It was like the very last bit.
Wow.
I was a mess mentally.
Yeah.
So I drank the entire Tailwind, which I couldn't stomach. The smell of it was repulsing me, but I convinced myself it was the Coke because I didn't taste both of them.
Yeah.
I just went, "Oh, this is the Coke." And I was like, "Oh," and I was like making love to it. And then,
so crazy.
yeah. And then I took a sip of my other one. I was like, "That's Coke." I was like, "Fuck!" I just drank all of that. So my first thought, I was laughing and I was like, "Double Coke!" I got 2 things of Coke in my head. So and then I was like, "I've got a whole flask of Coke here."
So how did the Coke taste?
Incredible!
Coke.
It was
next level.
next level. So I had no idea that I was drinking Tailwind. I just thought it was Coke.
Wow.
Yeah, I just convinced myself. And then
That's
when I
crazy.
did actually taste the Coke, my mind was blown. And then I was like, fuck, did I have 2 Coke? No. And then I taste like the little dregs. I was like, oh, it's tailwind. I'm like, I can't believe I drank
disgusting.
that. Oh, yuck.
Wow.
But just before that, I was licking it, like loving it. That was so weird. Just the mind, like playing weird games. And then
That's unbelievable.
yeah, and then we spoke about it. Lachys, how many possums did you say you saw?
Oh, there were so many possums out there, and there were none.
Every
log, every log was a bloody possum. It was like they were like rats, just everywhere, like both sides of the road, like here, there, and I was just like, "Wah."
Not a single one was real.
I did not see a single possum.
Wow.
You get this thing, I don't know what it's not hallucinations, and we spoke about it beforehand because I've heard a lot of runners talk about it, and it's like good to understand it because people freak out. But like when because it's pitch dark, we're running in the bush, we only had our head torches, so you don't get all of your depth perception correct, like it starts to mess with your head a little bit, and you're under so much fatigue already, and your body sees shadows and shapes and stuff like that, and because it's under so much fatigue, it just fills in the rest. So, and it's like sort of says that'll do. This is, I've got 40% of the information. I'm going to fill in the other 60%, and that's what that thing is. But it's not like a hallucination where you just completely see something that's not there. It's just your brain filling in the blanks really badly. So for me, it only happened to me once, but I saw a massive bear, and it scared the living shit out of me. But it wasn't a bear that was realistic. It was bear the size of a room, like at the front of a bus. Like it was that big, and it was only for 3 steps. Like it was like 1, 2, like it's a big bear. And then by the time I take my 3rd step, I was like laughing. I was like, oh fuck! I was like, that's what they talk about, and that's with Lachy. His brain just saw these shapes, and maybe a little bit of glistening on the ground, and your brain just fills in the rest and goes possum.
Yeah.
So for him, his brain was like possum. I don't know where my brain got bear. That's.
I mean,
A bit unlikely in the Blue Mountains.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, like that'll do.
You hadn't done that much trail running, so what did your brain have?
And a lot of the trail running I watch on YouTube is in America.
Right,
Like, my brain was like, that's a big fucking bear, man.
Hey, bear.
Oh my.
Yeah, that was. I'm glad that didn't happen more. I did hear of a guy at the end talking about he saw someone playing a piano.
That's a bit scary.
He saw someone playing a piano.
Freaky.
Yeah.
That's intense. Maybe it was a ghost.
Did you see the Brumby? Did you see the wild horses?
Was it?
No, the real in daytime. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
we saw it. Did you?
Whereabouts? Not on the private property.
No. After Iron Pot, you come down. It was actually right near a creek crossing. After Iron Pot, you came down that real steep part, and then it flattened out, and we're running through those like big open area, big grassy areas. You remember that? Yeah, there was a Brumby going.
Oh, and we went through a paddock full of cows, and you didn't see that?
I didn't see that. No.
There was a little house. We went.
Oh yeah, I saw the little house. I didn't see the cows.
Oh, it was cow. We were like, running through the cows.
I saw the cows down on the road, down the very, very bottom where the creek crossing was. Did you see the cows there? Up on the hills?
Yeah. We were, they'd come down by the time I'd got there.
Yeah,
And they were like right there. Yeah.
That was about all we saw. They were real. That was in the daytime. They were all real.
Yeah. That's pretty. It's pretty cool when that stuff happens. Like when you have a special moment, like see a bloody horse, or the cows were, they're just cows, but like it was you come around a corner and it's like this whole different experience, and then you move on, and it's like the race is sort of, it's like a bunch of moments like that stitched together, and it feels so good when something like that happens. You come across paddock full of cows or some horses or whatever, and you just like appreciate it so much. I reckon.
Yeah,
more than you would normally. Like
100%. 100%. Are you gonna do another one?
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna pace you, but it'll be nighttime. So I'm gonna pace Sean for the for his miler. I'm not gonna do it all.
But are you gonna do another run, another ultra?
Before then?
No, just in general.
I might.
Cool. 100?
I want to do an adventure race. That's my next thing.
Yeah.
That's my next thing.
Oh, so you're looking for teammates. Yeah, there's a call out.
I'm looking for teammates. Call out, everyone. I've got one. So
yeah, I'm doing the adventure race.
So there's a couple of races you can do which require only a team of 2. But they're shorter. They're sort of like 24-hour cutoff. But for any of the longer ones,
Doesn't sound very short.
Yeah. Well, okay. So the longest one I know of is 10-day cutoff, which I freaking love to do. Like I've got a bunch of mates who've done that one, and I've kind of followed them, on the GPS tracker and stuff, and I'm in awe of those guys.
Which one's this?
It's called XPD.
And where is it?
It changes. It moves every year. They move it around. The few that I watched were in one of them was in South Australia, and it started up in the Gammon Ranges or the Flinders Ranges, like way up in the desert.
Lost on me.
In South Australia, and it's like it's an adventure race, so it's not a set course. So there's checkpoints, and you can get to that checkpoint however you like, right? So you navigate. You've got a map and compass, and you figure out what you reckon is the quickest way, and there'll be debate, as to which is the quickest way, and on you go. And this race sort of went from all the way up there down to the coast, and then they paddle bloody miles and miles up to Adelaide. So one of the checkpoints was in the middle of Lake Frome, which is a salt lake.
Was you gonna paddle out there on a kayak or something?
No, it's dry-ish, So it's I think it's like ankle deep water.
No, that sounds terrible.
These guys walked 20 k's out into the middle of Lake Frome, ankle deep in salt water.
Yuck.
They would have blisters.
Yeah.
They probably just walked on the Bessa blocks.
It's like it's
like Lachy did.
It's the closest thing I can think of that kind of you could do as an average kind of citizen that would take you a little bit close to sort of Shackleton or Mawson, or these explorers that sort of went through these amazing journeys, and you don't want to actually do that because you'll probably die, and then there's also not much left to explore and stuff. So it's sort of like you get people that are kind of recreate those, but I sort of think it feels a bit sort of contrived or something. But with the XPD, it's the closest thing that you can, the average person can.
I'm not sold on the 10-day.
Close as you can get to Shackleton.
That's a weird way to think of it.
10 days is a lot.
But so that takes a team of 4. So if anybody wants to be like Shackleton, and I need 3 teams.
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't need 2 more. You need 3 for that one. We're going to do a 24-hour one together, which is, we did our first kayak together the other day as training.
Yeah, Sean was really, really good at it.
Fucking miserable.
It's a double kayak, like you're the same one, yeah?
It is in the race, but...
this one we just went in. He's got 2 kayaks, so jumped in one. He went in the other, and we paddled out around Line Island.
Yeah. We got close.
Well, we saw Line Island.
That was the plan, and then we got about, what do you reckon, like 15 minutes?
I hated it.
And she was like, my back hurts.
Miserable.
It's rough.
It's terrible, man. Horrible.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
All right, let's call it.
Awesome.
Did we even talk about the race?
What do you mean? How long is this?
That's an hour 20.
Hour 20?
Yeah, we try and keep it around an hour.
Joe Rogan does like 4.
Joe Rogan has good guests.
I got more stories.
We're not good guests.
We can do a second episode. Especially if you do an adventure race.
I'm joking. Well, you got to do another episode to talk about Sean's plan. Like we're talking about, my pissy little achievement. Sean's going for. Have you talked on the podcast about what you're doing?
No.
Do you want to do that right now?
Not really.
He's running 250 Ks through the Sahara Desert about this time next year.
It is actually.
But
April 11th, I leave.
We can leave it at that.
Yeah, leave it at that. Leave it at that.
Locky's like, do you want to talk about it? No, not really. I'll tell everyone.
Somebody has to play.
Maybe have Lock on for the second episode of U2 about it.
That's awesome, guys. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Kimbo.
Thanks, Kimbo.
See you in the next one.
Ta. Bye.
Thanks.